Hey, everybody out there in podcast. Now we're in video land. It's not just podcast land, but we're on Zoom video. Dr. Fred DiDomenico with Elite Coaching. We usually have Dr. Joe Ferrantelli at Posture Co. He had a family thing, man. And Dr. Deed Harrison, he's been gone for a while, so we don't really count him anymore. So we're here. I'm here hosting this thing, and I'm really excited to have a great leader in the profession, Dr. Dane Donahue. And I've seen you around town. We've shaken hands in a few different places, but never really had a huge in-depth conversation. So I was really excited to speak with you tonight, learn a lot about your purpose and your vision and what you're doing. You've done so many great things, and you're such a great leader through the profession. So thanks for being on here with me.
Hey, well, my sister, I have a twin sister who I practice with, and she just got back from your seminar. And we have a doctor's meeting every single week, Fred. So there's 4 of us in our practice, and she just couldn't stop talking about you and how clear your vision was and how powerful you are. And she just enjoyed your program. She had a coaching call with you this week, and it was very good, because a lot of times when you have a twin sister, Fred, who you practice with and you grew up with, it's nice to be able to have other mentors for her to coach with. And so for her to have been around 3 generations, her father, grandfather, our father and grandfather, both chiropractors, and to come back from her experience with you and just have nothing but great things to say, that really raised my eyebrows.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. I really appreciate that. And good thing you guys don't look too much like each other either. Because
no, I know. No, we really don't. Yeah. She's got larger breasts than me. You know what I mean?
What's that?
She's got larger breasts than me. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, great smiles on both of you, so that counts.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, usually we want to know the man behind the mission. And, you already mentioned 3 generations of chiropractors. That's so fascinating. So many of us didn't grow up like that. So I want you to share how, first memory coming out of darkness in the light, Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Fred, because my dad, we had a home office combination growing up. And my dad was a very musculoskeletal-based chiropractor, but my uncle, and you got to remember, all of the chiropractors on my mother's side of the family. So it was my mother's father and my mother's uncles, my grandfather's 2 brothers, that were the first chiropractors in our family. And then from there, we grew up kind of a whole lineage. And I think now we have 12 or 13 chiropractors in our family, immediate family. But my dad met my mom and got married, and that's how he got interested and went back to school to become a chiropractor. So my dad was a very musculoskeletal-based chiropractor. He didn't talk a lot about chiropractic. We had a home office. I would see people limping in and walking out, and that had an impact on me. And I got adjusted as a kid, but I didn't really understand why. It's not like my dad went into a lot of detail, explained the subluxation or explained the nervous system. But then I got to know my uncle, my mom's brother, who was a chiropractor maybe an hour from us, and I started attending his workshops, his talks, and that's really where I really said, wow, there's something to this thing called chiropractic, because my uncle's so passionate about it, and people will, I would go to a healthcare class, Fred, and there'd be 40 people in there. I'd go to his office, he'd see 180 people in a day, and by himself, and I was like, wow. And, it was, people just valued my uncle. They valued the adjustment. They were getting results, and it just really had an impact on me as a kid. And I said, listen, if I could do something like my uncle's doing, like my dad's doing, my dad was helping people at a smaller scale, my uncle was helping people at a larger scale. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to help people, and I want to have fun like they're having fun, and really, and just really have an impact on people.
Well, and it's fascinating that you say that, because, one thing, I don't know, I wouldn't say the profession's lost it, but what's your age, man? When did you graduate?
I graduated in 91. I'm 40. I'll be 48 this year.
Yeah, man. So, we're like almost the old dogs. I'm older than you. But that old school philosophy, like your uncle, man, that, people came out with purpose that just burned inside them like a fire. And when they found it, man, they just had huge practices, and they were in a world that didn't accept chiropractic. I mean, the world actually understood chiropractic is a household word, and they had massive practices.
Right. And I think, from what my observation, Fred, it wasn't that people believed or didn't believe. It was that the results that they produced were so impressive. People couldn't deny chiropractic. because of the impact that it had on their life. I mean, they had, you know, you have to remember there was a point in time where chiropractors were seeing all kinds of cases, not just lower back pain, neck pain, headaches. They were seeing everything, psoriasis, whatever didn't get cured by the medical profession, you went to see the chiropractor for. So my grandfather, my uncle, they were seeing epilepsy. They were seeing people who couldn't walk. They were seeing everything, right? And when you see everything, you have the opportunity to have some amazing results. And when that happens, you know, I mean, again, you know, just think about people who are being healed from all of these things, because, you know, it wasn't just they were getting obviously incredible adjustment, but they were also being talked to and understanding innate intelligence, that there's an intelligence that runs the body. And if you can just not interfere with the natural inborn wisdom of the body, which meant, okay, I'm going to eat a little better. You know, I'm going to start to think about that, hey, my thoughts and my emotions have a part in my overall health. So it was an environment in my uncle's office that, you know, I as a kid, I was like so impressed that people, like I said, people valued his care so much and they believed in him so much. And I think it was that belief combined with the power of the adjustment that just got really exceptional results, to the point where people couldn't deny, say, hey, chiropractic didn't work. Hey, you know what? Chiropractic works. I know firsthand because it cured my whatever, or it helped me get over whatever.
Well, you know, that's so fascinating. And there's something that you said, you know, you looked at your uncle and you wanted to have fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the thing that is so influential, you know, we do a lot of NLP life coaching stuff. It's our boot camps are, you know, kind of parallel with Tony Robbins, UPW. But, you know, Tony says the person with the most conviction has the most influence. And it's like that state of your uncle, that state of joy, that state of healing, the state of unconditional love, you know, and that's where, and the intention on that, and that's where BJ says, you know, it's the adjustment with that extra something. You know, it's that rooted, deep-seated, rooted belief, man, that comes through your hands that has such great healing power, you know, not to mention the adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that's really what I feel so grateful for my family is being able to lay my hands on people and being able to recognize. And I always say, Fred, I don't know how people put their hands on other people's spines and don't believe in chiropractic. You know, right. I mean, all you got to do is palpate an atlas. All you got to do is palpate a sacrum and the subluxated. All you got to do is run your hand down somebody's spine and know how much people need our care.
Right. No kidding. So there you were. You're all fired up about your uncle. And you said, okay, I want to do that. And what happened next in your life?
So, you know, basically I went off to chiropractic college. I went to where my grandfather went, Texas Chiropractic College. And I graduated in 1991. I went right into practice with my uncle, which again was a great experience because he was seeing 150 to 180 people a day, 3 days a week. We worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday all day. We worked Saturday morning, and we had Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday off. It was really a great life. And I learned a ton. I learned a ton watching him adjust. He would go on vacation, and I would get thrown into the fire, Fred. You know, 100 and some people coming in. I was like, you know, green under the collar. But, you know, I had to figure it out. And it was really kind of nerve-wracking. But I always recommend to new associates or graduates to really mentor under somebody, you know, to find that mentor who's going to teach them the ropes like I learned, because that was an invaluable 2 years for me. And then I went off and opened my own practice in the town that I live in now. But that 2 years with my uncle was just was an awesome experience.
Awesome. So you opened up a practice. Now, did Denise, your sister, go to school with you, or were you the first one in?
So Denise went, when I was going to chiropractic college, Denise went to engineering school. And so she graduated with an engineering degree, and she worked 4 years as an engineer. And she hated it. You know, she wasn't her calling. She was really good at math, my sister. So, you know, and this is a great point. Some counselor in high school said, Denise, you're really good at math. You should be an engineer. But nobody asked her what she was passionate about. You know, they just said, you're talented in this area. And they said, this is what you should do. And she did it, you know, but she hated it. And I remember having a conversation with Denise on her porch, and I was all spizzed about chiropractic, and she hated her job, and she was traveling, and, you know, she just wasn't in a good place. And I said to her, I said, well, why don't you go back to school and become a chiropractor, you know? And she's like, well, you think I could do that? Because all the chiropractors in our family were male. And I'm like, yeah, why couldn't you do it? And it just so happens as God, opens doors, her husband was a chemical engineer, and he had an opportunity to be transferred down to, he worked for Mobil Oil. He had an opportunity to be transferred down to Houston, about 5 miles from where I went to chiropractic college. And having an engineering background, she had most of the prerequisites to get into chiropractic college, so she had to take 1 or 2 courses. So she went to school, and I believe she graduated in 95 or 96. And so she graduated. I didn't need an associate, Fred, but again, great learning experience. This was my twin sister. She was graduating chiropractic college. I didn't know how I was going to pay her. I didn't need an associate, but I said, this is my twin sister. She was transferring back up, and I was going to give her a job. And that turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made, because, that led into us building a $2 million practice. It led into 8 Weeks to Wellness. Denise and I work really well together. We have similar visions and missions. And just having that person in your life who won't let you settle, who just expects so much of you, because I think innately, when you have that person that's going to hold you accountable to a higher standard, you're going to raise your game to that higher standard. And that's what my sister does for me.
That's so awesome. Now here's the real question everybody wants to know, right? Did she help you in math class? If she was the math whiz, did she help you on your math test when you're going through school? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I wasn't too bad in math, but she helped me in a lot of, they as twins, they wouldn't put us in the same class. But there was no doubt Denise was smarter than me. I mean, it was hard to live up to a standard. She was homecoming queen. She used the SATs. I mean, she was just always a good kid, man. And I got into a little bit of trouble. So it was hard having a sister, who was always doing the right thing, because I was always compared to that standard,
That's so funny. You know what? My older sister was like that. We're 9 months apart. And it goes, why can't you be like your sister? She's freaking boring. That's why I want to be like her. She gets good. Exactly. I get in trouble. She goes to class, skips school. That's an entrepreneur in the making.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny in practice, because it still plays out that way in practice, because I'm always like, let's try this. Let's do this. And Denise is always like, hold on a second. Let's rethink this, should we really be doing this? I'm like, you're damn right we should be doing this, so it's funny, 25 years later, and, we're still kind of.
You're still the same people.
Yeah, we're still the same people,
That's so funny, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Hey, you know what? Chiropractors are, they're not created, man. They're born. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're just born. It's the way we come in. We think differently. We're not in the box. Sometimes a little hard to manage when we're young, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you, thinking about it, Fred, one of the pivotal experiences in my life was getting into a point where when I took Denise in practice, we were doing okay, but literally when Denise came into practice and we started working together and we started really defining what our vision was and what our primary focus was and how we wanted to practice and the services we wanted to offer, and we started doing our weekly healthcare class and really nailing that down. Well, our practice grew pretty substantial, but we were still, because that was back in the days, and you remember this, when all you had to do was fill out a HICcup form, put a couple of CPT codes on there. You got paid pretty well, and people didn't have large co-payments, and there wasn't an obstacle to get care in the office. And we started making a lot of money. And, I dare say my focus was, from serving to those Fridays when the bulk check came in, and, there were 5 digits in the bulk check, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good day today. Yeah. And it really changed me as a chiropractor, and, now we're about 80 or 75, 80% cash, 20% insurance. And I dare say there's not a time that goes into the practice that I don't love it. I mean, just this past couple weeks, the teachers and this is when it's getting bad, Fred. The teachers in our school district switched their insurance, and they now have insurance that doesn't cover chiropractic care. And one of my associates is kind of freaking out because, traditionally teachers always have good insurance, and it lowers the obstacle to people getting care. And they don't have insurance anymore that covers. They have Aetna, and we're not a part of it. We're not a part of any HMOs. So everybody's kind of freaking out, and all the chiropractors are freaking out in my town, because now the teachers who traditionally always had great insurance don't have insurance for chiropractic anymore. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, that's the best thing ever, because now you're going to have to prove your worth. Now you're going to have to show value, because when you show value, people are willing to pay out of pocket. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. All it's going to do is unconsciously make us raise our game to really be able to not only show value, but to deliver value. Because when you show value and you deliver value, people are going to want to come and get, they're going to come get your service, because, it creates value in their life.
Well, it's exactly right. We're living in a new world, man. We need a new model. But however, you go back to that conviction, how we started this, that old school principled conviction. You got to have it in your heart. You can't know it in your head. You got to take that 18-inch journey, where you learn how to communicate to people, and you believe not just as knowledge, but in your beingness, and that conviction. So you went through practice, practicing with Denise, developed a very successful practice. And so then how did 8 weeks of wellness come about?
Well, we, Denise and I have always lived what I've always believed in my heart. And I got a lot of this from my uncle and my grandfather too, because my grandfather practiced this way with his patients. But to me, chiropractic was always a lifestyle. It was never just about the adjustment. It was never a procedure. Chiropractic was a lifestyle. It was about not being vaccinated. It was about understanding innate intelligence. It was about understanding a positive mental attitude and understanding how that impacts your physiology and your health. So I've always been really interested in the lifestyle part of chiropractic as well as the adjustment part. And, so when Denise and I were practiced, we started to see, especially I took Chestnut's certification program, his wellness certification. I was the first one enrolled in that, because I was so interested in wellness. I went through that certification program, and I got through it, and I said, this is awesome, but there's got to be some sort of operational model to be able to implement wellness into your practice to complement your adjustment. So I always thought, Fred, if you could be adjusting people and clearing their nervous system, and then teaching them how to eat a healthy diet, and teaching them how to exercise functionally, and teaching them how to think, how to remove stress, how to think positively, how to control your thinking. I mean, there wasn't much that I think that, listen, if you get people eating well, if you get them moving well, if you get them thinking well, and you start adjusting them, the impact on their overall well-being and health is going to be amazing. And, but if you remove one of those aspects, you're limited, you're handcuffed. So Denise and I sat down and we said, hey, listen, if we were going to put a wellness program in our practice that's doable for patients, recognize that people have limitations. They have time limitations and money limitations. So what could we put together that respects their time? And that's how we came up with 8 weeks. Because I said, listen, if we can convince somebody to try something for 8 weeks and say, listen, try this for 8 weeks. If it doesn't work, you've wasted 8 weeks of your life, okay? If it works, it's going to completely change your life for the rest of your life, right? Because you're not going to want to go back to your old lifestyle if 8 weeks to wellness, a chiropractic lifestyle, shows you how you can get off this medication, shows you how you can look better, feel better, And so I felt the time was really important, because I think so many times, Fred, we take these people who don't believe in chiropractic, who've been educated medically their whole life, and they come into our sphere because it's bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, right? And they want to step up and hit a home run with their health. So as a last resort, they go to see a chiropractor, and we say, okay, well, here's the care plan. You're going to see us for 2 years, 3 times a week. And they in the back of their mind, they think, well, why can't I see after, a month or 2 if this is making an impact on my life? Because if you were going to do anything, for me, if I was going to try something new, I'd want to know the value of what that's going to do in my life if I didn't understand it. So the 8 weeks was really important to me, is to be able to say, hey, listen, just give me 8 weeks. Let me teach you how to live a chiropractic lifestyle. And after 8 weeks, if it's not working for you and you've really applied the principles of this program, then we can shake hands and move on. But I was so confident in eating better, moving better, thinking better, and getting adjusted, and the impact that that's going to have on somebody's life. And remember, we measure physiology. So we're measuring people's lab work, Fred. We're looking at their x-rays. We're looking at their we do digital posture pictures. We're looking at a lot of physiological biomarkers, not just, And the changes that we started to see when we implemented this program was like nothing I've ever experienced in chiropractic. And I knew we were on something.
That's so awesome. So here you go. Okay, you and Denise, you create this package. You're starting to use it on your patients, and then obviously you wanted to bring this out to the profession.
Yep. So
So
we test marketed. What happened was, and this is really interesting, but in 2003, when we launched 8 Weeks to Wellness, I had done about 750,000 in collections in my practice. Okay. We went from 2003 to 2007. Okay. And this is 5 years, 4 or 5 years. We went from 750,000 in collections to 2.2 million in our practice.
nice.
And it was amazing the impact that 8 Weeks to Wellness. And more importantly, Fred, we went from an insurance dependent practice to about 50-60% cash when we were about 20% cash in our practice. And I knew that, it's just the reality, Fred, that, it's an easier sell for people. People, it taps into people's belief system. And with NLP, if people believe something, it's an easier sell.
Yeah.
So they believe in exercise. You don't have to sell them on the value of exercise. They already believe it. You don't have to sell them on the value of eating well. They already believe that. Oh, but the chiropractic thing, you better do a damn good day one, day two, and report of findings, because you have to change their belief systems to get to really sell them your care plan. It wasn't so much that way with 8 Weeks to Wellness. It was much easier to sell for patients. And the interesting thing, Fred, is we had people coming in saying, I want to do your 8 Weeks to Wellness program, but I don't want to do the chiropractic part of it. Right? And I was amazed. I'm like, as a chiropractor, right? I was like, what do you mean you don't want to do the chiropractic part? Well, I don't want to get my neck adjusted, but I want to, my friend Mary has lost 30 pounds. She's gotten off 3 medications and she feels better than she ever has in her life. I just don't want to do the chiropractic part. And what they were saying, Fred, is I don't understand how chiropractic fits into a wellness model of my health. I understand exercise. I understand nutrition. Maybe you can sell me on this meditation thing, but what does the chiropractic have to do with it?
Well, exactly. And you're smart enough to see that wasn't really an objection. It was just their ignorance, because you understood what they weren't saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like because so many people freak out because what people say they think is a barrier, when really what we teach, an objection, it's not an objection. When you're so convicted and you make that decision in an unwavering commitment and conviction that this person is definitely going to be in this program, I just have to figure out what their mindset is so I can change their belief systems.
Right.
And so rather than become defensive and do all that, an objection is really an open door, because once you clear it, then they move right in the program. So that's just a sign of your brilliance. You didn't see it as an objection. You just saw it as ignorance.
Right. And what I didn't want, Fred, was I didn't want to be one of these chiropractors to say that, well, let me just cater to what they want. Let's just give them the functional medicine approach and skip the chiropractic, because that's such a hard sell. I said, you know what? If I'm going to be true to my chiropractic principles, if I get adjusted, and I think that's really an important part of an overall wellness program, that's got to be the foundation. As I tell them, I said, listen, I don't care what I put into your body, whether it's good thoughts, whether it's good supplements, whether it's good movement. I don't care what I'm putting in. If you have a nervous system that's dysfunctional, it doesn't matter what I put in, because it's not going to be interpreted properly by the body, because your nervous system isn't working. And you know what? The funny part is, we ask people, Fred, that come into the program at the end, what was the part of the program you enjoyed the most? And you know what most people say at the end?
Chiropractic.
They said, I enjoyed the chiropractic adjustments. I've never been adjusted, but I have to tell you, that was my favorite part of the program.
It's so awesome, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Really awesome.
Yeah.
Nice job. So then, okay, so you had your little pilot program. All of a sudden, your clinic's kicking butt. And then you mentioned, before we started recording this, you have 82 doctors all over. So obviously you started teaching seminars. You wanted to bring it out. You have a great package. You have something that can change people's lives. You had a bigger vision. So what did you do? Was it seminars? I mean, not just the how, but how did your purpose expand beyond yourself and your own success into contribution into the profession?
Well, I would love to tell you, Fred, that I had this vision that I woke up one day and, hey, I'm going to have, 500,000 8 Weeks to Wellness Center, and I'm going to be like Bill Gates and I'm going to put a computer in every person's home. I wish I could tell you that it was that way, but I had a couple of my buddies that were watching my practice just explode, and they were seeing the results because, again, we documented through people's lab work and their wellness score the changes that I was seeing in patients. And they were like, hey, what's this all about? And I said, listen, we've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. Our practice is just kicking butt. We're getting amazing results. And what I would love to do is test market in your office and see, is this just because Denise and I are so passionate that the model works? Or is it really a model that I can teach other chiropractors? And so I had 2 of my really good friends that we beta tested it in for about a year. I think some of the problems that I see with some of the programs out there, Fred, are people just think it's such a great concept, I'm just going to launch it, and they don't test it. They don't test market it in another chiropractor's office. And so I believe if you have this great system, you better show proficiency in other offices. So we put it into a couple of offices. Their office did the same thing my office did. They got great clinical results. They were seeing great growth in their cash collections in their practice. And I knew I was onto something. And I give a lot of credit to the Master Circle. We were part of the Master Circle at the time, and Bob Hoffman really took kind of a shine to me and put me up on stage in 2006. And I got a lot of great feedback on what we were doing. I was nominated Master Circle Chiropractor of the Year because of the growth of our practice. And, it just kind of took off from there. And we started doing seminars twice a year. And you know what, Fred? We did them in our office because I wanted people to come to our office and see it in action. I didn't want to go to a hotel room and say, hey, listen, I want you to believe what I'm doing. I want you to come to my office and see the way that we've designed it, see the way that we've laid it out. We've put into place an operational model of wellness that's working where there really hasn't been any in chiropractic that I've seen, Fred, that works real well. It's either, in wellness, it's either a lot of science but no application, right? Or an application that really hasn't been well thought out that just doesn't work, and it's got to be doable for the chiropractor, It's got to be doable for the patient, but it's also got to be doable for the chiropractor. It's got to resonate with their philosophy. It has to have an implementation plan that's doable for the chiropractor. And, after 7-8 years of doing this now, the cool thing is I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work. And we're constantly always upgrading that level of implementation because to me, Fred, it's always about implementation. It's always about coaching. I just don't think you can get to where you want to be if you don't have the proper coach. Or, I've always learned by looking at people like my uncle who had something that I wanted that I didn't have. And I always said, what, if he has it and I can learn what he's doing, why can't I have it?
Exactly. That makes sense.
Right.
With implementation, man, as you know, too, it's all about the team engagement. You got to keep it simple and you got to keep it specific and predictable so the team has certainty. The minute your team doesn't have certainty, the team will tank the whole project, not intentionally, but then implementation goes downhill. So I'm sure that's something you teach as well as team engagement.
Totally. And especially with our practices, Fred, because, we have personal trainers and we have massage therapists and we have chiropractors all working together. And let me tell you something, if they don't have this similar philosophy, it's game over because, I look at it like this, Fred, in my practice, I'm the quarterback. And ultimately, when we huddle up, I'm going to call the play, and I want my team to execute that play. But if we come to the huddle and you have the massage therapist has one vision, right, and they have one clinical application and I have another, it's going to be chaos. So, we recognize that we're the chiropractors, but we're also the leaders of this wellness team, and everybody, whether it's the trainer or the massage therapist or the nutritionist, they're all going to understand what our vision is, our mission is, and we'll go from there. But it's not, we're going to adopt, 5 different visions in our practice. We're going to adopt one and go from there.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. So now you got 82 doctors, man. You've been all over. You speak on stages all over the profession. You're always on a plane somewhere, I'm assuming. Denise mentioned that you're gone a lot, and I know I always see you in the lineup on at seminars. So you're obviously have great vision. Where do you want to take it from here? Again,
Fred, I would love to tell you that I have a crystal clear vision what my 10-year plan or my 5-year plan is, but I have a lot of faith. I feel like God really guides me, and the past 10 years of my life, God has really he has really guided me well. And so I would love to see an 8 Weeks to Wellness center in every community. I feel like if there can be a Starbucks or 5 Starbucks in every town, why can't there be one kick-ass chiropractic wellness center that's truly doing great work healing people? So that is a vision of mine, is to really get this message out there and promote 8 Weeks to Wellness. And again, for me, I call it the doorknob test, Fred. It's, I want every chiropractor, when they grab the doorknob to their office, to feel like they're doing God's work. And that's the way I feel now. And I can't say that I always felt that way in practice, but when I grab the doorknob and open it up, I want to know that I'm doing God's work, and I'm doing what God has really put in my heart to do, and I'm having fun doing it, and I'm making a difference in people's lives. And that's really what I want for the chiropractors that I work with, is to know that we have such an awesome product. I mean, again, when you start adjusting people and you start to change their nutrition and you start to change the way they exercise and move, how can you not be excited about the results and changes that you're going to see in patients' lives?
It's life-changing. I mean, any one of those is life-changing, especially the chiropractic part. And you put them all together, man. Each one fuels the next one.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's really amazing the changes we see in people's lives and how much they really appreciate it when you change their life in such a dramatic way. I really feel in my heart, Fred, that I've saved people's lives. I mean, we say that chiropractic saves lives, but again, I really feel what we're doing is really saving lives, because let's face it, and you've been in practice long enough to know this, you can adjust that person who goes to a toxic environment, toxic relationships, toxic foods, toxic movements. And, we've had people in our profession who've been very, very staunch chiropractic philosophical leaders, and they've died young. And why did they die young? Because they lived a chiropractic adjustment lifestyle, not a chiropractic lifestyle that included, what I would consider very important. The focus has been about the adjustment rather than lifestyle that the chiropractic offers. And to me, chiropractic offers a lifestyle. It's interference with innate that causes disease. And there's a lot of things to me that can interfere with innate intelligence. It's not just the subluxation. There's a lot of other things that can create that toxicity and interfere with the natural expression of inborn wisdom in the body.
Well, I think that with that old school philosophy, when I say old school is more of a time reference. And with that time reference, we don't live in that world anymore. When we grew up, man, I grew up on the East Coast. My grandparents were from Italy. All the stuff was homegrown. I was stomping bread in the basement, and the meats and cheeses were imported from Italy. And we didn't eat fast food. The big treat was like once every few months you get one McDonald's burger, you know what I mean? But it was homemade, it was homegrown. Or even if you went to the store, we just live in a different world.
Right. Hey, I'm getting the nod from my wife. I got a boogie.
Got it, man. So, hey, well, thanks for being with us. Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your passion and your purpose. One last thing is that I really respect that you're spiritually based, and you see a lot of great leaders that do world-changing things have an inside-out, spiritually based reference point. So I just want to honor that and acknowledge that within you.
Yeah, it's been a big part of my growth, Fred.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to you and I connecting a little bit more, too.
Sounds great.
All right. See you, brother.